Last week I made great progress, finishing 129 pages and 37 scenes of my novel, and this left me in a good spot to finish writing my draft this week. But after losing a writing day to finishing the editing for last week's video, I don't have enough room to let up yet. I still need to write 6 scenes a day, and I still need to manage my rest to be able to finish the remaining 5 days of this week. So let's just get started. What's going on is the first day of the last week of Camp NaNoWriMo for me. First of all, I didn't get a full night of sleep last night, but I did alright. I got like 5 hours or so, maybe even a little more than that. So I should be alright. My goal once again is to write 6 scenes for the day. So I'm just gonna get started reading over this scene that I'm about to write from Naj, and then I'll continue along writing from there. So it is 7:16 and I have managed to reach 302 pages. So the writing in this last session was pretty interesting actually. These were 2 big scenes. Things are starting to pick up a little bit. We're getting out of the bad guys close in and toward the all is lost. So I'm excited for that. Both of the next scenes that we have from Naj and Sashim are super fun ones. I was just looking over them. So I'm gonna go outside and get some sunlight in the eyes and all that. But then I'll get to come back and write these scenes. So it is 9:57 and I have written 309 pages so far. So these chapters are going well so far, and you know, this part of the book is getting really fun again. It's getting really interesting. I have made it through the slog of the bad guys close in that I sometimes can get into, and now I'm getting to write some really fun scenes. Sashim's last scene was a ton of fun. I don't want to give it away for spoilers, but long story short, he's in a situation which he doesn't even think is even possible to get out of, and he doesn't even know what the first step might be to get out of it. So that's going to be an interesting one to have him solve. Now it's about time for me to have some breakfast, so that is what I'm going to be doing, and I'll be back to continue writing after that. So it is 1:47 and I have written 315 pages so far. So I just finished the last of the scenes for the day. I actually ended up writing 7 scenes today because I had to split up the last one from Ice-Nut into 2. There was one part that I started writing and I realized it was its own little separate scene to lead into the second one, so I split them up. I have written quite a bit today, over 20 pages here, so definitely feeling good about the writing here for the day. Things are getting interesting, and pretty soon we're going to be getting to write some climactic scenes. Lots of stuff to look forward to during this last week of Camp NaNoWriMo, and we'll continue with that tomorrow. Oh yeah, and I finished my puzzle, which was a ton of fun. We're only 19 scenes away from completing this book, so I'm getting really excited here, and I'm going to start off with 2 scenes. One is a Dark Night of the Soul scene from Sashim, and the next is the final backstory scene from Nat. So let's just get started. So it is 7:09 and I have just reached 323 pages. So these last 2 scenes were fun to write, especially the one from Sashim. It was a very interesting one to try and write. The backstory scene from Naj I feel like was decent, but I feel like I need to do a better job with this backstory. There's just something that feels a little off about it, so I'd have to figure that out if I decided to, you know, revise and edit this book and whatnot. Anyway, it's time for me to take a break, get a little bit of sun, you know, the usual, and then I will come back and continue writing the next 2 scenes, one from Naj and another from Sashim, and both of these are looking like they're going to be some interesting ones. So it is 9:10 and I have managed to write 329 pages. So I just finished writing the 4th scene of the day and the second writing block. I'm starting to feel a little bit tired, so I think it's a good time to take a break, eat some breakfast, even if it's a little bit early. Yesterday I also finished The Way of Kings for the 2nd time, so now I'm going to move on to reading Shadows of Self, the 2nd book in the Alloy of Law series. And also one more thing with regard to the actual story, I've just finished up the Breaking the 3, so now it's time to move on to climactic scenes. So this is going to start to get pretty fun. I have 2 scenes from Naj coming up in the next chapter, and that will finish off our writing for the day. So it is 11:29 and I managed to write 332 pages. So that last session went really well. I managed to write 2 more scenes, the first 2 in the climax from Naj. I don't want to give away too much for spoiler purposes, but long story short, Naj applied a lesson he learned earlier in the story, and he and his members of his party were being a little bit clever. Now I managed to write 18 pages for the day, and I think it's a little bit less just because of the fact that we are getting to some of these climactic scenes, which tend to be a little faster paced and a little bit quicker. So I'll be back tomorrow to continue writing. Yesterday I started on the climax, so I'm writing a bunch of really fun scenes here. So first things first, I'm going to start with a scene from Sashim and then Naj, and after we finish our 6 scenes for the day, we will only have 7 scenes left in the entire book. So let's just get started and start making some amazing progress on this. Okay, so just to keep you up to speed, everybody, in the middle of writing this second scene, I had to kind of go off for a little bit because, long story short, we don't have internet here right now at our house. Apparently there's some sort of outage in the area, and I had to upload a YouTube video by tomorrow. So I just went to my mom's school and did it there. But I am back now, and I am ready to continue with this writing. So it is 9:21 and I have managed to write 345 pages. So despite the no internet problem, I am managing to write pretty well here. The only thing that I don't like is that my autosave is not working on OneDrive, but I'll save it locally. And since I got home, I finished 3 more scenes, including the one I started during that first block when I got a little bit interrupted. So things have been going great so far. Naj's scenes are a little bit more difficult for me because I feel like it's a little bit more subtle. A lot of it is done in dialogue and in some sort of confrontation, whereas Sashim's scenes are more action-based, more physical, so I'm finding these a little bit easier to write. And also, I just love Sashim's ending as well, so I'm enjoying this right now. So I'm going to be back to continue writing in a little bit, but for now, I need to get some groceries, and I also need to eat some breakfast and all that sort of stuff. So it is 1:03 and I have managed to write 349 pages so far. So today's writing just flew by, and you know, that always happens with these climactic scenes. I feel like they get written so quickly because they're faster scenes, they're shorter scenes, they're more fast paced. It was a pretty simple day of writing, a pretty easy day of writing, and a very fun day of writing, especially some of Sashim's scenes. As I've been saying, his story is my favorite part of this so far, so sorry Naj. I like Sashim more. Things are going great with this story. I feel really good about the position that I'm in here because now I only have 7 scenes left in the entire story. 7 scenes left until I'm done with this book. And that equates to basically 1 day. Today might be our last day writing the first draft here during NaNoWriMo because we only have 7 scenes left to write and I was already planning on writing 6, so what's 1 more scene really to add on to that? I think we're probably going to finish today. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm probably like 80-90% sure. So I was just having a little bit of OneDrive problems, you know how it works. I don't know what was going on, but for some reason there was another version of the document that was uploaded, and I opened that one first and it was missing a chapter, and I was like, what the heck? And then I ended up finding the real version, but Microsoft, I don't understand why you do this to me. Anyway, let's just continue writing. So it is 7:09 and I have managed to write 355 pages so far. So that was a good last session here. Both of these scenes that I just wrote were fun ones to write, especially Sashim's. As you all know, he is my favorite right now, but we finally got another scene from Aisna as well, and I realized that I'm probably going to have to add 1 more scene from Naj that I wasn't intending on adding, just to wrap up his story a little bit better. So I think we actually have 8 scenes potentially left rather than 7. We'll see how that goes progress-wise today, but for now, I'm going to take a little bit of a break. I'm going to go get some sunlight, you know how it is, and then I'm going to come back and continue writing. We have another random sort of interruption kind of thing. So I was in the middle of writing this 3rd scene. Well, I'm like a sentence or two away from finishing the 3rd scene, but I just found out my grandma is coming back and she's arriving at the airport, and my aunt who was going to pick her up isn't able to do so. So I'm going to go pick her up. I may or may not write at the airport, and then I'll be back to continue writing later on. I went to the airport, picked my grandma up, took her back to her place and helped her get inside, and then my writing plans got a little off track. So it's already 12:30, and my break ended up taking a lot longer because going to the airport and coming back took already like over an hour. And then I decided that while I was out, I might as well do my physical therapy stuff at the gym. Then I went to the store, and then I ate breakfast and listened to a book, and I'm finally back. So it was a bit of a break here. I'm just gonna take a look over my stuff and just get started writing again, and we'll see what we can do. I would still like to finish 6 scenes today, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to finish 8. It is 3:12, and I have managed to write 367 pages so far. So today was a very productive session. Despite a little bit of distraction, I still managed to write 6 scenes today. However, since I actually added 2 scenes in that I wasn't planning on writing, I actually ended up with a few scenes left to go for tomorrow. So overall, I've been having some fun here. The last scene I just wrote was another one from Sashim, and it was kind of like the pinnacle of his archery moments, so it was pretty fun. I also ended up kind of watching some YouTube videos about archery, so that was a little bit of a distraction, but it worked out. I got some cool ideas. It's really late already, so I'm gonna call it here for the day and try to get some rest for the remainder of the day, as I've been trying to do since last week. So I will see you tomorrow for what will be my final day of writing, because today I only have 3 scenes to write. All 3 of them are actually resolution scenes, so they should be relatively simple to write, but I'm just gonna try to have as much fun as I can while writing these and enjoy the end of story vibes, you know. Okay, so I just realized that my closing image for Naj is not actually very closing imagey. That's not a word. Basically, it's supposed to show the character transformation and all that stuff, and I think my scene is closing off the plot, but it's not closing off the character arc. So I need to figure out a way to do this, and that's kind of what I've been trying to do here when I immediately realized that. I still need a little bit more, so I'm just gonna do a little brainstorming for this part, and then we can actually write it. So it is 7:49, and I have managed to get up to 374 pages. So I've already written the first 2 scenes, and now I only have 1 more scene to go. The last scene in the story and the last scene from Aisana. So I'm very much excited for this last one. This is a very fun one to write. It's a little cliffhanger-y, but that'll be fun. So it is 8:09, and I just finished the last scene, adding only 1 more page to get us to 375. So I have just finished writing this last scene of the story, and that means that I have finished writing the first draft of this new novel. Although this week wasn't easy by any means, it did feel good to finally finish another draft. And even more than that, I was able to work on key skills like writing character voice and balancing narrative modes. And so this Camp NaNoWriMo experience was not just a success in the context of this book, but also as a writer.